Sesame Street nearly killed our son. I'm not kidding. Our oldest son, Sam, has autism and Tourette's, and as a result, he has powerful obsessions and compulsions that were even stronger when he was little. And some of them were episodic, one-time things that he had to do and he had to do now, like go over the barrier at the gorilla enclosure at the zoo. Go over the fence on the edge of a 200-foot fall into Lake Superior. Wander off at sunset in the Porcupine Mountains. Now others were more periodic, things he had to do every single day for a period of like 6 months, a year and a half. Though to the rest of the family, each of them seemed to go on forever. Some were harmless, like the one school year he wore a Band-Aid on his face every single day. And others were a little more frightening, like the stretch where he had to run out and touch the yellow line in the road with his finger to a count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course, it's a yellow line, so therefore it was a busy street, like Grand River or Michigan Avenue. And you couldn't stop him. The best you could do is protect him. Though there was many a friend and family and total stranger who told us over the years, when he'd behave like this or any number of other unusual behaviors or utterances, why do you let him do that? Why don't you just tell him to stop? Now, granted, 20 years ago, the awareness of autism was not as great as it is now, let alone Tourette's. But this combination of the two led to these obsessions and compulsions that were so strong, it was like an itch that if you didn't scratch it, just grew stronger and stronger and stronger. And he could easily take off while I'm cooking dinner or we're all asleep. So our best course of action was just to protect him, and we survived that compulsion with no casualties. And we moved to the next, and he moved to the next, and there was one when he was about 8 years old that I completely misunderstood. In autism, there's this saying, behavior is communication. Well, this one went right over my head. He was compulsively taking the wire ties that connect your chain link fence to the upright supports in the top bar. They're bent and then they're crimped with pliers. And he was using his little 8-year-old fingers to wiggle them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth so he could get it loose and take it off. And it was taking him forever, but he was working his way down the fence. And every couple weeks, I'd go out at night with my pliers and I'd put them all back on. But Sam was not our only child. Over the years, my wife and I, we've raised in our home 17 children. And at that time, we had 5 other children. And so, between work and coaching and all the needs of all the other children, I fell behind this compulsion. And it was my fault, but one day I look out the back window and I see the fence between our house and the Walkers, best next door neighbors ever, lying flat in the grass. It's like, shit. And the top pole is missing. Shit. And I look out in the back of the yard at the edge of the garage by the power lines is Sammy with a 20-foot long pole wobbling. I was like, shit. I go out there, and we've learned over the years, you can't panic, you can't yell. That only makes a bad situation and makes it worse. So I said, Sammy, let me have the pole. Gift out to the pole, Sammy. But before I could get a hold of it, he goes, wham, wham. And that gray cylindrical box attached to the utility pole where the power line goes in, he hits it twice, really hard. And as he hits it, he yells, Oscar, come out of you can! Come out of you garbage can, Oscar! He thought the transformer was Oscar's garbage can. And all this time, I thought his compulsion was bending those wires, but no, it was a singular compulsion with a singular purpose. He looked up, Oscar's up there, about 20 feet high, need about a 20-foot length of pipe. Well, there's one right there, That'll work. I said, Sammy, Oscar doesn't live up there. Oscar lives on the ground. He live on the ground? Yes, he lives on the ground. He live on the ground? Yes, he lives on the ground. He live on the ground. You got to do things in 4s, right? And so I said, if you hit that, you could die. I could die, you could die. I could die, you could die. I could die. So 45 minutes later, I've convinced him to come inside and see the Sesame Street video and show him that Oscar does indeed live on the ground. But I'm not foolish enough to think I've talked him out of his compulsion. So my wife comes home, I run to the fencing store, buy 3 big bundles of those wire ties, and that night the rest of us go out there, we put so many wire ties on that fence. He'd have to have that obsession for another year before he had another chance to talk to Oscar. Now, surviving these compulsions and just navigating Sammy's diagnoses over the last 20-some years have taught my wife and I and most of our kids to take life in stride and appreciate and enjoy all the little things. And my wife summed it up beautifully in one of our many camping trips. It had been another fun but eventful day. The kids were all finally asleep in their tents. She and I were sitting around the fire having a well-deserved nightcap in our little tin cups. And she looks up at me and says, "Honey, it was a good day. No fatalities."